Hi, this is Victor Antonio with another Sales Influence Moment. Today I want to talk about objections. Basically, objections and the strategies we should use to basically handle those objections. Now, I've never seen this done, so I've kind of put this together, I think, for the first time. Is basically what I want to do right now is categorize the type of objections we typically get. Now, I believe there are 4 categories of objections with maybe a 5th one. Let's go through them. The first one is deflect. When you get an objection from a customer, for example, your price is too expensive, maybe you'll try to deflect that by changing the conversation or maybe moving on to something else. In other words, you never really handle the actual objection, you just never answer it. We've all been there. People deflect it but never get around to answering it. I think this is one of the worst strategies you can use because it builds distrust and you lose credibility when you simply don't answer the question. So a deflect strategy is never the best. Those are left for the snake oil salesman. Now, then there's the defend. Again, your price is too expensive. That's when you defend your price. You said, yes, our prices are more expensive, Mr. Customer. And then you defend them by saying, and here's why, and then begin to justify. That, I believe, is the best strategy so you don't have to negotiate down or get discounted on price. Another one is to actually diffuse the objection. Let's say the objection has something to do with software. And they say, well, it's not compatible. You want to be able to diffuse that by saying, well, let's go ahead and look at that. And then you actually take it apart and say, look, and show them certain things, and then you actually show them that the software is compatible. You've just diffused that objection. The last one is diminish. Sometimes the customer has a valid objection, and you don't really have an answer for it, but you can diminish the objection. In other words, you can lower its priority by telling the customer, Mr. Customer, I understand that you want that feature, but when you really look at how often will you use that feature? Studies have shown that many customers don't typically use this feature less than 10% of the time. Get the idea? I start diminishing how important that feature is so I can then emphasize where I'm really strong at. And then last but not least, I think it's the 5th one, I call it dissecting the objection. Sometimes you'll get an objection. It's not a simple objection, it's a very complex objection. And so what you want to do is kind of break it apart. So when somebody says, for example, your software package is too expensive, you say, well, Mr. Customer, let's look at that, and you dissect it. When you look at the database, Mr. Customer, this is how much it costs. When you look at workflow productivity and the programs that go with it, that's how much that costs, and then so forth and so on. So you begin to dissect the actual objection and then maybe arrive at a compromise with the client, and therefore what you've done is basically taking it apart, and now you've broken it up into pieces, and now you can present a better argument or defending your position. So in other words, when you dissect an objection, you can still use a defend, a diffuse, or diminish strategy. So again, these are 5 categories of objections, and I think it's very good to be able to consciously think about when we're going to answer objections, which strategy are we going to use? Now, we need to do this before we go into the presentation, but I think this will help categorize the type of objections you'll be facing. This is Victor Antonio with another Sales Influence Moment reminding you, delegate hard when you know how. Take care.